Hello, everyone. This is Doug Davis, broker in charge at Crombie Realty, and here with another question, another Ask Doug. So I had this one this morning, and it was one of my agents, and the she's representing a buyer, and the seller just came back with a counter deleting the J3 or the final walkthrough paragraph in the contract. And the question then became, what's the risk for my buyer? What's the risk for a buyer on not being able to see the property at the tail end of the transaction? Well, J3 is property condition, maintenance, and final walkthrough paragraph. Seller shall maintain the interior and exterior of the property, including all inclusions, in the same condition as when the buyer inspected the property, and shall have the right to conduct a final walkthrough. Well, they shall have the right to conduct a final walkthrough if that's not deleted. So, well, who deleted anyway? Well, in this case, it was a bank repossession. It had foreclosed. And they just don't like to do much of anything, and they like to delete everything, and they got themselves exempt from disclosure and all sorts of things. So yeah, well, actually they're exempt from the seller's real property disclosure statement, but they're not exempt from things like the sea level rise and special flood and those sorts of things. They still are required to disclose things about that, which they can find on various websites. So J3 deleted. Well, what would happen, or what could happen? What would be the risk to the buyer? Well, what happens if there's a flood and no one knows about it, and they buy the place without the opportunity to have looked to make sure that it was the same as when they first got in there, and everything has been warped and destroyed, and mold has grown and so forth. So that could happen. Maybe there was a small fire. Maybe a homeless person lives in there now. Maybe the past owner who got foreclosed came back and moved in. Who's going to get them out? I mean, what if the windows are broken, the mirrors in the side are broken? What if they came in and ripped out all the copper plumbing through the walls, opened up the drywall and removed all that so they can make a dime on the weight of copper? I've seen that. They do that. So what if all the appliances have been removed? What if things have been moved in, like possessions, beds, furniture, and not theirs? They got to pay someone to move it out, and maybe someone owns it that's in there illegally, and then they say you stole my stuff. It's not a good idea. Don't think it's a good idea whatsoever. And on a related topic, people do buy properties here in Hawaii. They might be in the mainland or foreign country, and they buy the properties sight unseen. Well, perhaps for a high-rise condo, you're fairly safe on buying something, but a house in certain neighborhoods, I think a very bad idea, because all of those things I just mentioned could happen in any one of them in any place. So it's always good to have an inspection within a few days of closing, just to make sure everything's the same. Even a legitimate person moving out, the movers come in. What if they break a mirrored bedroom closet door, or put a hole in one of the doors, the corner of a piece of furniture, cracks the glass or goes into the wall and there's a big hole? You wouldn't know that until the end. Guess what? That's happened to me. And that's at the very tail end of the transaction. And you don't get to know that unless you see it. But sight unseen does happen. People take a chance. In a condo, there's only so much that could go wrong with fixing things. Well, sort of. If there was a flood, that could be very costly, especially if it emanated from the unit itself and went down and damaged other people. Well, who gets to go through the repair joy? So that could happen. And then on another related thing is maybe you should start your insurance as a buyer, maybe a couple of weeks before closing, and have the unit double insured in case the seller disappears, goes to the mainland, goes to a foreign country, and there's things to do on his insurance, but he didn't pay the last month. The insurance company won't cover it. So maybe double coverage is a good idea. Anyway, something to think about if you're buying and something might go untoward, and at least you'd have that extra coverage. A week or two of insurance coverage is not going to be very expensive, so maybe a good idea. So there you go. That's relating to J3. That's the property condition maintenance. You want to make sure it's the same all the way through. And you want to be able to get inside to see what's there. So a good idea. Okay, so there you go. That was a real live question. And if you have any more from me, love to hear from you. And until next week, thanks for listening. And if you have any property management needs, want to sell something or buy something, love to hear from you. All right, next week. Thanks.